Everyone knows about the 7 wonders of the world. However, the wonders that we know of are the modern wonders. Did you know that there is another list of the 7 wonders? It is of the ancient world. Here we list the world's spectacular wonders and remarkable creations of the ancient world. The statue of Zeus at Olympia was created by the great Greek sculptor Phidias around 435 BC. He was known as the finest sculptor of the ancient world in the 5th century BC. He had worked on the massive statue of Athena at Athens. The statue depicted the god Zeus seated on his throne, his skin of ivory and robes of hammered gold, and was 40 feet tall. In its right hand was a small statue of crowned Nike, the goddess of victory. Its left hand held a scepter inlaid with many metals supporting an eagle. The throne featured painted figures and images and was decorated in gold, precious stones, ebony and ivory. Zeus's golden sandals rested upon a decorated footstool. The statue was kept constantly coated with olive oil to counter the harmful effect on the ivory caused by the marshiness of the altar's grove. It was designed to inspire awe in the worshippers who came to the Temple of Zeus at Olympia. Although the temple itself was very large, the sculptor was criticized for not having appreciated the correct proportions. He had shown Zeus seated but with the head almost touching the ceiling. If Zeus moved to stand up, he would unroof the temple. The temple at Olympia fell into ruin after the Roman Emperor Theodosius I banned participation in pagan cults and closed the temple. Later, the statue was carried off to Constantinople, where it was later destroyed in the Great Fire of the Palace of Lausus in 475 AD. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon were built by Nebuchadnezzar II between 605 and 562 BC as a gift to his wife, the Queen Amethyst, who missed the mountains and flowers of her homeland, and so the king commanded that a mountain be created for her in Babylon. The Hanging Gardens were described as a remarkable feat of engineering, with an ascending series of tiered gardens containing a wide variety of trees, shrubs, and vines. The gardens were said to have looked like a large green mountain constructed of mud bricks. They are described by the ancient writer Diodorus Siculus as being self-watering plains of exotic flora and fauna, reaching a height of over 75 feet through a series of climbing terraces. The gardens were irrigated from the river Euphrates. The gardens were destroyed by an earthquake sometime after the 1st century AD. The Great Pyramid of Giza was constructed between 2584 and 2561 BC for the 4th dynasty Egyptian pharaoh Khufu, and was the tallest man-made structure in the world for almost 3,800 years. The mass of the pyramid is estimated at 5.9 million tons. It is thought that at construction, the Great Pyramid was originally 146.5 meters tall, but with erosion and the absence of its pyramidion, its present height is 138.8 meters. It is estimated that 5.5 million tons of limestone, 8,000 tons of granite imported from Aswan, and 500,000 tons of mortar were used in the construction of the Great Pyramid. The accuracy of the pyramid's workmanship is such that the 4 sides of the base have an average error of only 58 millimeters in length. It is the only structure that still exists of the ancient wonders. The Temple of Artemis at Ephesus, present-day Turkey, has been completely rebuilt 3 times before its final destruction in 401 AD. It was first built sometime during the Bronze Age and was destroyed by a flood in the 7th century BC. It was then completed in 550 BC. The temple was 425 feet tall and 225 feet wide, supported by 127 60-foot high columns. Sponsored by the wealthy king Croesus of Lydia, the temple was so magnificent that every account of it was written with the same tone of awe and was among the most amazing structures ever raised by humans. On July 21st, 356 BC, a man named Herostratus set fire to the temple in order to achieve lasting fame by forever being associated with the destruction of something so beautiful. The Ephesians decreed that his name should never be recorded nor remembered, but Strabo set it down as a point of interest in the history of the temple. On the same night the temple burned, Alexander the Great was born, and he later offered to rebuild the ruined temple, but the Ephesians refused his generosity. It was rebuilt on a lesser grand scale after Alexander's death. This reconstruction survived for 600 years, but was finally destroyed by the invasion of the Goths. The Mausoleum of Halicarnassus. It was the tomb of the Persian satrap Mausolus, built in 351 BC. Mausolus chose Halicarnassus as his capital city, and he and his beloved wife Artemisia went to great lengths to create a city whose beauty would be unmatched in the world. Mausolus died in 353 BC, and Artemisia wished to create a final resting place worthy of such a great king. The tomb was 135 feet tall and ornately decorated with fine sculptures. It was destroyed by a series of earthquakes and lay in ruin for hundreds of years until, in 1494 AD, it was completely dismantled and used by the Knights of St. John of Malta in the building of their castle at Bodrum, modern-day Turkey. Here the ancient stones can still be seen today. It is from the tomb of Mausolus that the English word mausoleum is derived. The Colossus of Rhodes was a statue of the god Helios, the patron god of the island of Rhodes, constructed between 292 and 280 BC. It stood over 110 feet high, overlooking the harbor of Rhodes. The statue was commissioned after the defeat of the invading army of Demetrius in 304 BC. Demetrius left behind much of his siege equipment and weaponry, and this was sold by the Rhodians for 300 talents, which are approximately 360 million US dollars, which money they used to build the Colossus. The statue stood for only 56 years before it was destroyed by an earthquake in 226 BC. It lay in impressive ruin for over 800 years according to Strabo, and was still a tourist attraction. Pliny the Elder claims that the fingers of Colossus was larger than most statues of his day. According to the historian Theophanes, the bronze ruins were eventually sold to a Jewish merchant of Edessa around 654 AD, who carried them away on 900 camels to be melted down. The Statue of Liberty in the US is modeled after the Colossus. The Lighthouse of Alexandria. It was built on the island of Pharos, stood close to 440 feet in height, and was commissioned by Ptolemy I Soter. The construction was completed around 280 BC. The lighthouse was the third tallest human-made structure in the world after the pyramids, and its light, A mirror which reflected the sun's rays by day and a fire by night could be seen as far as 35 miles out to sea. The structure rose from a square base to a middle octagonal section up to a circular top, and those who saw it in its glory reported that words were inadequate to describe its beauty. The lighthouse was badly damaged in an earthquake in 956 AD, once again in 1303 AD and 1323 AD, and by the year 1480 it was completely gone. The Egyptian fort Qaitbay now stands on the site of the pharaohs, built with some of the stones from the ruins of the lighthouse.